Welcome back to another episode of Novelio. Today is Thursday, June 3rd, 2021, and I'm going to continue on with our new book of It Happened on Dufferin Terrace by Melanie Robertson-King. Chapter 5, Serenity's Condo, Yorkville Avenue, Toronto. Shoes kicked off and keys discarded in the bowl on the sideboard, Serenity pulled her rolling case into the dining room. After removing her MacBook and notebook, she went to the kitchen and peered into the fridge. Cooking for one was such a bore. Nothing in it appealed to her. Quite often, she put in her weekends preparing, packaging individual meals, and freezing them, something she hadn't done in some time. Serenity padded off to the closet where her washer, dryer, and small chest freezer were installed and raised the lid on a ladder. Mother Hubbard's cupboard contained more to eat. A stop at the grocer's around the corner from her on the Bloor Street Market before returning home was her original idea. Rattled by the encounter with the manager at Jonathan's, she rushed back, never giving her food shop a second thought. Back in the refrigerator, she found the ingredients for a Greek salad, as if they were fit for a human consumption. The unopened bottle of Lipton Pure Leaf was pulled out and a tumbler poured. Beverage brought through to the table. Serenity sat down, flipped open her journal, and turned on her computer. While waiting on the device to complete its power-up routine, she sipped her iced tea. How would she write up her statement on the rude man? The thoughts formulated in her mind, and she feverishly touch-typed before they vanished. About an hour later, Serenity wound up her report and saved it. Leaning back in her chair, she sighed. Not bothering to check her mail, she shut down, returned for another glassful, then to her soaker tub. A hot bubble bath would put the world to rights. Chapter 6, Thacker, Price and Associates, Bay Street, Toronto. Fingers tapping on the desk surface to the beat of classical music piece, Serenity studied her notes written for this morning's conference call. The segment detailing her encounter with the manager at the Bloor Street store made her seethe with anger. The digital clock read 9:25, so she gathered her things and walked with purpose to the boardroom. Martin Thacker rose when she came into the room. "I trust you're prepared for our three-way with Jonathan Drake?" "Yes," she said, slipping into a chair on the opposite side of the enormous table. What she wanted to say was something to the effect, "Have I ever let you down?" or "Of course I'm ready." When I have not been, but held her tongue. "Thought we'd do it in here. Less likelihood of being interrupted than in my office." This room was overkill for a call on the speakerphone, but when the slide sign on the door read occupied, those using the room were not disturbed. The same didn't hold true for either of their offices. Awards the company won over the years adorned the off-white textured walls. At the far end of the room, a 52-inch plasma television hung from a bracket, a video camera for teleconferencing mounted to it. A black table and high-backed swivel leather armchairs seated 16 people comfortably. A similar credenza stood along one wall parallel to the table. A pitcher and glassware placed at one end and a Keurig coffee maker at the other. In between, sculptures from local artists added the finishing touches to the look. The phone resounded, and she pressed the switch to activate the speaker function. Her employer interrupted, not allowing her to talk. "Good morning, Martin Thacker here." "Thacker," an all-business voice answered. "Allow me to introduce Serenity Lane, the expert designated to your account." "Hello," she greeted. "A woman? You assigned a woman to represent the needs of Jonathan's? I assure you she is our best consultant. I wouldn't have given it to anyone not up to the task." Heat rushed to her face at her boss's compliment and faith in her. "I have some exciting ideas to bring your business into the 21st century so you can compete with the likes of Holt Renfrew, Diesel, Debenhams, and Marks and Spencer, just to name a few." "Well, what?" "Over the next few months, I'm going to visit every one of your stores Canada-wide, get input from the personnel, find out what works for them. One thing I recommend is presence on the internet, starting with a web page. Until yesterday, I didn't know there was a Jonathan's on Bloor Street here in Toronto, and I live in the vicinity. Oh, in that store? I trust the rest aren't in the state of disarray and filth I witnessed there. The place is a disgrace to the family name. I fully documented my findings. I can read my report to you if you like. No, that won't be necessary, the man blustered. The point of her boss's fine point scratched on the writing pad as he scribbled something and slid the tablet across the table to Serenity. She nodded. If there's nothing else for today, I say we should bring our chat to an end. Goodbye, sir. Far from being a feminist, the pompous, arrogant man's attitude with respect to women bothered her. She would swear the manager of the Bloor Street outlet was related to him if she didn't know any better. Call disconnected, they both sighed. What a demeanor. I know you believe in me, Mr. Thacker, but I don't think I can work with Jonathan Drake. You'll do just fine. Janice has your itinerary and plane tickets. I know I first told you next Monday, but things have changed and your flight leaves Saturday, he said, standing. That didn't give her much time. But, she protested, I have a ton of things to do before I go, and my expense report for last month isn't balanced yet. It's due next Friday and I need more time to finish. Are you telling me you're up to the task? I can assign the account to one of the other consultants, he said with an arch of his eyebrow. Yes, I am, shoulders per back. She bristled at his comment. The last thing she wanted was to lose this assignment to someone else. Excellent. Bring me your last month's expense statement and I'll balance it for you. Go home, take the time off to prepare. The company car will pick you up and take you to the airport tomorrow, he said as he shuffled his paperwork. Oh, and would you email me a report on the Toronto store before you leave? I want to know what we're dealing with here. As soon as I get back to my desk, she replied, picking up her notebook and writing instrument. Relieved to have the rest of the day off, Serenity sent the file as requested and recorded a new out-of-office message on her phone. Once she completed those tasks, she set up an electronic memo directing people to contact her peer, Phil Bradford, if they required assistance during her absence. Chapter 7. Serenity's condo, Yorkville Avenue, Toronto. Back home, Serenity opened the itinerary. The schedule was insane. No one could maintain that pace for any length of time without collapsing from exhaustion. Flying from Toronto to Quebec City to devote 2 weeks in the principal retail location. A reservation arranged at the Hotel du Vieux, Quebec, adjacent to the head office for the duration of her stay. A king deluxe with a fireplace, no less. The logic behind the decision to start there, she got, but beginning on the west coast and working her way east made more sense. She couldn't let the agency or herself down. The firm had given her a minimum of 14 days at each Jonathan's Lake location. That would be just enough time to get a feel for things and not much else. Some of the consultations she did took over a month. With the short time she had to travel across the country, this wouldn't be as in-depth as she would like. The head of the company begrudged paying this much and not $1 more. The positive to starting her consultation in here was she wouldn't have to deal with the manager of the Bloor Street for 6 weeks, if at all. With a lack of lead time before her journey, she didn't have time to hash out a stratagem with her superior over the approach to use. Not that she was incapable of thinking for herself, but she enjoyed those brainstorming sessions and thought they always brought out the best in her. The sizable hardshell piece of luggage was hauled out of the closet, hoisted on the bed, and opened. The smaller carry-on was preferred, but on the road for the better part of 6 months, using the bigger one was imperative. No guarantee of laundry facilities. The plush panda her father won at the Canadian National Exhibition when he secured odd jobs on the Midway sat in the tub chair under the window. He lugged the stuffed animal home tucked under one arm. At the time she was a little girl, the bear's left eye was missing, courtesy of Eric, her younger brother. The absent orb replaced by a button sewn on by her mother. She never forgave her sibling for ruining her prized possession. A rush of unhappy childhood memories flooded back, starting with her dad, a work-shy alcoholic who died the year she started high school of a massive heart attack. Never able to cope with things well, even before his death, her mother threw away most of her time locked in her room watching television. Eric's whereabouts remained unknown. Always a rebellious boy, he caused their mother no end of grief with his actions, the worst of which was stealing to support his drug habit. He put her mother through hell, and if she ever clapped eyes on him again, it would be too soon. In her mind, she was an only child. Attention turned back to packing. Serenity plucked laden garment hangers from her closet and chucked them on the bed. Next, she moved on to her dresser and removed undergarments. Thanks to her lousy aim, the panda ended up wearing panties on its head. Giggle suppressed, she snatched her underwear and waggled a finger at the teddy bear and ordered, "No wild parties while I'm away." The blast of a car horn jolted her awake. Alarm clock, not set the night before. She leapt out of bed and raced around her condo. A brush pulled through her hair as she went. No time to do it now. Her makeup could be applied in the car. Luggage in one hand, she swung the crossbody leather purse strap over her shoulder. After one last inspection to ensure everything was turned off, she seized her laptop bag and scurried out the door. With skillful driving on the chauffeur's part, she breezed into Pearson in time to check in and arrive at her gate. On board the aircraft, she removed her MacBook Air and files from her case and stowed the latter on the floor in front of her. Being a short flight, she chose a window seat to work without interruptions when someone had to use the toilet. So engrossed in reading and typing notes into her computer, she didn't hear the announcement the plane was on final approach for the airport. Not until an attendant came along and told her she had to pack things up did she feel the increase in pressure. The landing was the only thing she detested about flying. No hitting the tarmac with a thud, but the increasing pain in her ears. Safely on the ground and checked bags collected, Serenity made her way to the arrival halls, where a man stood with a sign emblazoned with her name. She approached him. Once ensconced in the back seat of the limousine, she pulled out the paperwork again and read more. Extraneous distractions tuned out. She concentrated on the job at hand. Until he announced they have reached their destination, she never lifted her head. Files stuffed back in her briefcase, she climbed out of the vehicle. Across the street stood the primary location of Jonathan's empire. The 3-story structure behind her would be her home while she was on assignment in the city. The chauffeur removed her large bag from the trunk and extended the handle. Now getting checked in was her number one priority, the store visit after that. The room was spacious and had an exposed stonework wall with Wi-Fi, a desk, a seating area, and a flat-screen TV that had to be 42 inches wide fixed over the hearth. She had everything she needed. Suitcase hoisted on the bed and opened, she hung her trousers, suits, blouses, and skirts in the small closet. An ironing board and iron were provided. After extracting the telescoping handle of her rolling computer case to its full height, she started for the shop. Vehicles sped by on the central thoroughfare. At least she could enter from the side street where the limo driver stopped the car. "I'm looking for Jonathan Drake. Would he be in?" she asked a clerk in ladies' apparel. "The offices are on the top floor. The elevator is through there," the woman responded. "Thanks." The location divulged, Serenity found the lift. The cubicle-filled office area greeted her when the doors opened. Individual workspaces lined the far wall. To her right stood a reception desk. The place was deserted. Then she clued in. Saturday. A man's voice drifted from the far end of the space, so she moved closer to the sound. Light filtered under a closed door. The nearer she got, the louder the one-sided dialogue became. Call ended. She knocked and crept in. "Serenity Lane from Thacker Price and Associates?" Within minutes, he rounded the desk and stood in front of her. The man was huge, tall, stocky, and bald. Crow's feet created deep chasms at the outer corners of his eyes. Other lines formed at the edge of his mouth. "Ah, you're here, Miss Lane. I trust you had a pleasant flight, and your room at the hotel is satisfactory." "Yes, to both. I want to make a start, since I only have a short time here before I fly to Vancouver." Hand placed on the small of Serenity's back, he guided her an empty office. "This is yours for the duration of your stay here." After expressing her gratitude, she said, "I'll require a Wi-Fi connection, so I'll need the password." "We're not running a wireless network here. Strictly wired. IT will set you up on Monday morning." That was the last thing Serenity wanted to hear. The more she accomplished straight away, the better. Without access to their databases, her stratagem needed revision. "One more thing. Are you open tomorrow? I want to get as much done as I can." "Yes, much to my chagrin. We do business 7 days a week. Now our hours are shorter on Sundays, but as long as you're out by closing time, you're more than welcome to work weekends. No office workers to help you, so time spent on other areas of your study would be prudent." After he left, Serenity reached for the light switch. The fluorescent fixture hummed, no buzzed like an angry swarm of bees. Was more appropriate with its volume. One of the tubes flickered from dark gray to white and back again, struggling to come to life. The office was functional but much smaller than the one she had at the firm. Still, she would make do. No choice in the matter. Serenity placed the lightweight MacBook Air and the files she studied en route on the desk. Where to start? From a financial aspect, everything was acceptable. Poring over those documents again was a waste of time. Time better utilized on something else. Without accessibility to their network until Monday, much of what she wanted to do was put on hold. Journal and favorite ballpoint in her hand, she returned to Ladies' Wear. I need your input. What improvements/additions would you like to see implemented? An updated computer system? This one locks up constantly, said a woman likely in her mid-40s. Online buying, replied the young girl, possibly in her early 20s, who told Serenity the location of the offices. Their concerns noted, now with representation from 2 age groups in women's clothing, she needed to find someone near retirement. Appreciate it, ladies. Is there anyone older? I want to cover all ages. Maureen in lingerie has been here for eons, said the younger of the 2 women. Is she working today? Claire, is Maureen here? No, doesn't work weekends. You won't be able to get any input from her until Monday. What about men? Is there a decent demographical representation in sales? Assured there were, Serenity went off in search of them to repeat her questions. The consensus was the same as in Ladies. Update the computer system and have a secure website. The men didn't appear fussed over the virtual buying aspect, but agreed about a computer-generated presence. The variety and quality of the merchandise from the fashion departments, footwear and housewares pleased everyone. In the brief walk around getting a feel for the store and the demands of the workforce, Serenity was impressed too. Before returning to her temporary workspace, she talked with every salesperson working. From the people she spoke with on this swing through the flagship Jonathan's location, IT was the bane of everyone. Again, they were a Monday to Friday group, so she could not hear their side of things. Only if the computers went down would one of them be put into appearance. Why not Wi-Fi? The head office encompassed more than one building, so the firewalls between them were rock as well. Without realizing it, she answered a question. A scribbled note reminded her to inquire about the network infrastructure in the other cities when she visited. Upstairs in her office, she transcribed her notes. Information technology was the foundation on which she would build her study. In her room where she had Wi-Fi, Serenity emailed her Martin Thacker. While she waited for his reply, ordered something to eat from room service. Not impressed with the schedule implemented for this consultation, at least he could have done, or had Janice do, was book her a flight on Sunday. Only waste a partial day before she could speak to the IT department. With mounds of paperwork and costing to investigate, she would have plenty to do and could work from her room. No time for sightseeing anyway, regardless of the weather. Later that night, about to settle under the covers, a thunderstorm formed in the distance. Low rumbles grew louder as the inclement conditions advanced. If there was a light show to see, she wanted the full effect. Not what filtered through the gap in the drapes. Curtains opened, she climbed into bed. At times, the storm sounded like it were directly overhead. Brilliant flashes of lightning streaked across the sky. Rain pelted the window first, and at random intervals, then harder. The deluge came down as hard as Niagara Falls tumbling over the precipice. The following morning dawned dull, gloomy and rainy. Showered and dressed, she went downstairs to the coffee house. The choices included croissants, local jams, and other pastries. The wide variety of the morning meal buffet made it difficult to select. In the end, she decided on crepes with pure Quebec maple syrup and espresso. Hunger satisfied, Serenity went back to her room, turned on her laptop, and opened the file folders on her desk. The cross-referencing on the paper files to the ones on her computer took the entire day. With the hotel's Wi-Fi, she accessed Thacker, Price & Associates so she could retrieve data from her jobs located on their servers. When she found the information she sought, she copied it to her MacBook. This was vital to her meeting with Jonathan's IT personnel the next morning. Necessary files downloaded, she logged out. She could log in again if she needed others. On Monday morning, Serenity took advantage of the coffee maker in her room and continental breakfast basket. After eating and packing her briefcase, she pulled the curtains shut and took a shower. When scrubbed, she walked out of the washroom, swaddled in a thick towel. At least this morning the sun shone bright and the blue sky was cloudless. A short perusal of the weather app on her phone revealed the day would remain clear with low humidity and temperatures in the mid-20s Celsius. Armed with this knowledge, Serenity chose a long-sleeve white blouse, black pin-striped pencil skirt, and her red pumps. Once in her workspace, she wrestled the moleskin and ballpoint from her rolling bag and introduced herself to the administration staff. Social niceties out of the way, she asked them for the items on the request lists. Again, IT issues topped the lineup. This time she got different responses too. The ladies' room demanded repairs, HVAC system required work, better lighting in the workspaces and corridors. The information technology department resided in the basement, while known fact computers operated best in a chilly environment, but this was beyond cool. This was damp. The overhead maze of ductwork, hanging fluorescent fixtures, water and sewer pipes produced an obstacle course. Light emanated from the far end of the dungeon, and she headed for it. Here it was bright, high-ceilinged, and warmer than the dark, dank place she traversed. "Hi, I'm Serenity Lane. You're the one they told us was coming to do an efficiency study." "Yes, but more than just productivity, and don't worry, your jobs are safe. That's not what this is all about." "Yeah, right," one of the men clad in a plaid short-sleeved shirt and beige cargo pants said as he turned around. The man was lanky and mustached. Red tinges infiltrated his facial hair, but he was blonde. "I'm Frank. This is Derek," he introduced his colleague. As tall and thin as this man was, the other man was short and stocky. An odd team for sure. The comic strip characters Mutt and Jeff came to mind, but Serenity managed not to laugh. "So only the two of you?" "No, there's Ivan, but he's on holidays. The lucky sod. Gone to Iceland said Derek. "You sound jealous." "No, but it sure is a pain in the neck being down to just the two of us." "Then you're not going to like what I'm about to tell you." "Go on, sit down." The men plummeted to their chairs and stared at her. Derek's mouth hung open. "At the head of the wish list of everyone I've spoken to is an updated computer system. They claim this one locks up frequently." "If the old man opened his wallet and sprang up for up-to-date equipment, you wouldn't have this problem," said Frank. "Interesting. You have a wired network here. Have you thought of installing a wireless one?" "Lady, the walls are stone. Some of them are 3 feet thick. Wi-Fi can't penetrate that." "Okay, I get it. I'm sure you feel like you're working in dungeons down here. You need better offices than this." "Got that right." Overall, the guys had every right to be suspicious of her and why she was there. She needed to gain their trust. "What if I can convince Mr. Drake to spring for a new computer system? Means you two will have to help me with the costing. Do you look after the IT requirements for all locations countrywide?" Raucous laughter ensued, which answered her question. "How can a chain of department stores operate like this? What about inventory? How does anyone know when to reorder stock?" "They use ACPAC for accounting, and this store only. The others send their sales by courier weekly." Serenity uttered an expletive under her breath. How could a business function with such an anti-system? Still, Jonathan's system seemed to manage and with no apparent problems. Their credit rating maintained its favorable status. "This has been an enlightening chat. What time are you off?" 5, said Frank. "I'm staying across the street. I'll buy you each a beer after work. How's that?" "Great. Sounds like a plan," the men said in unison, wearing broad smiles on their faces. She left the relative comfort of their lair and returned to her workspace. When she arrived on the uppermost floor, Serenity was fuming. Not waiting to be invited, she stormed into Jonathan Drake's office and slammed the door. "What in heaven's name are you thinking of keeping those men in the cellar? For one thing, the working conditions are deplorable. Unsafe. If a fire broke out, they would never escape. Not only that, it has to be illegal. That's foremost on my series of changes." She turned on her heel, marched out, slamming the door again hard enough to make the glass rattle. Heads raised and wide eyes stared at her. Obviously, no one ever challenged the man, much less a woman. Little did he know Serenity Lane was a force with whom to be reckoned. By the time she reached her temporary home, she had calmed somewhat. She picked up her iPhone, called Martin Thacker. After relaying today's experience with the 2 overworked, underappreciated technical support workers, she ended with her dressing down of the client. The latter she anticipated losing her job over. Relief washed over her to hear otherwise. He's a hard nut in old school. The firm has your back no matter what he says. Sorry I missed witnessing you in action, though. Serenity sighed, not about to take up with the ranks of the unemployed, and her boss retained his sense of humor. Sounds like you're not the only one having a bad day, Phil started in the Bloor Street store. And the manager is every bit as arrogant and obstinate as when you had your encounter. Poor guy. I'll touch base with him later. Commiserate with him? Oh, and I'm taking 2 of the 3 IT guys for a drink after work. The third has escaped to Iceland for a vacation, the lucky fellow. Well, I'll contact you again soon. She disconnected the call without allowing the man to get a word out otherwise. The entire time she was down in the dungeon, she scribbled notes in her book. Those points had to be transcribed while she could still read her handwriting, and she still had not spoken with the woman from Ladieswear. Serenity packed up her things and left the office. Her collar was limp and sweat formed on the base of her neck at her hairline. She needed a shower and clean clothes before meeting Frank and Derek. Even a consultation with Maureen was better suspended until the next day when she was refreshed and professional. Handwritten notes typed along with the references to things to investigate, she powered down her computer. The hot spray calmed Serenity's frazzled nerves. Bedecked in jeans, a white t-shirt, and a blue velvet blazer, she collected her journal and writing instrument and jammed them back into her crossbody bag. At 4:45, she went downstairs to be there for the men's arrival. On their entrance, Serenity stood and waved to them in the corner near the ingle nook. She sat on an unupholstered love seat across from 2 identical armchairs. A coffee table occupied the space between the soft furnishings. A waitress from the bistro came and took their order. Beverages in front of them, Serenity started with small talk to make them feel at ease. Soon they laughed and had a great time. I tore a strip off your boss over your less than humane working conditions. Their faces paled. Don't worry. You won't lose your jobs. I'll see to it. Over the next 6 months, I'll be visiting every store in the Jonathan's empire. 2 she wouldn't visit, but they didn't need to know about that. I see a central computer with accounting, inventory, tracking, and other business-related software installed. All stores Canada-wide will be connected. Their eyes widened. Won't work. Not with the antique architecture we have now, said Frank. JD will never spring for that kind of system, Derek added. He has no choice if he wants his business to remain successful. He'll have to open his wallet. The more capital expenditures he has, the better come tax time. The guys might be geniuses when it came to computers, but not so much on the financial side of things. At least not this much. Serenity took a mouthful of her Coke and returned the glass to the table. Another thing you'll be responsible for is creating a website. The old man will flip, said Derek. Can you see him now, eyes bulging out of his head, face going all red? He'll keel over dead. She smiled at the vision. It has to accommodate electronic purchasing. You got Frank started but stopped. Yes, I do. Serenity knew what he was about to say before he clammed up. And social media, too. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest. Love to be a bug on the wall when you lay him on that. Derek bent forward in his seat and took a slug of his beer. From what I can see, since attaining the contract, a few of the stores have crafted blogs to put the name out there, but nothing is uniform. It needs to be done from a central location, one site, one team to maintain it. Don't forget, I'll be visiting each location over the next few months, getting everyone committed to these philosophies and more. So what you say, gents, onwards and upwards? She stood and raised her glass. The men joined her and toasted their future working with each other.